How's it going, guys? It's Mr. Lone Wolf, and today I'm going to go and do a bit of a simpler, easier mission. This one's called Swimming the Wrong Way. All I've got to do is go and grab 3 lots of chemical barrels that are kind of scattered across the map. Sorry, that same fluorescent green, like, biker's jacket person that flies behind my TV just went past again, and he's vanished. I'm honestly, like, it makes me want to know more and more where the hell he disappears to each day. Yeah, so I've got to drive over to kind of like the top middle of the map. Yeah, the chemical barrels have kind of been spilled all over the map, so I've got to scoop them up and then take them to the port, so not too far away. And the line I originally had drawn there, I was going to go and grab the 3 chemical barrels and then kind of take potentially a shortcut, but I'll sort of explain here when we get there. I ended up going like a more boring way back, but then tested the shortcut in the end. Yeah, for this one, I suppose it was part of the reason I did like a bit of a simpler mission. Again, I was going through a lot of contracts tonight, and even though I can kind of work some out, one thing I don't like, I've never liked on this game, you know when they make you take cargo and logs? So it's physically impossible. You're never going to do it in one run or one truck or anything. You've got to kind of... You're going to have different trucks at that point. And then, yeah, the other thing, again, is just as I'm clicking on stuff, it's not telling me where. There was one with drilling equipment that when I'm on Albany River, it tells me I need to go to Burned Forest, but then when I go to Burned Forest, it says I need to go back to Albany River for drilling equipment. So, yeah, it just, in the end, I was running a bit short on time as well, so... I decided, like, I'll just pick a mission, do a bit of a simple one. Good excuse to take this Derry 15C out, which I don't know. I really want to like this. It's great that they've added this sort of truck. I was hoping this would be like a genuine contender for kind of like the Dolphin, the Zix, the Phoenix, all that kind of stuff. And in some ways, it's certainly got like plenty of benefits. I mean, it's nice that you can have the crane, the sideboard, and the trailer. It's also got a roof rack, although the roof rack's smaller than I thought. But yeah, I mean, nice big tyres. I think they're 55-inch tyres. You can just see how slow it goes, though. I'm in 5th gear, so it's like the top gear. As soon as you hit this dirt road, which, let's be honest, the tyres aren't even sinking like an inch into the ground, and it just makes you go seriously slow. And it gets a bit painful after a while when, yeah, you want to dropping the hammer a little bit. I'm surprised, to be honest. When I scouted Burned Forest with this thing, I didn't quite realise how horrifically slow it was. And I suppose to some degree on Burned Forest, there was like a lot of windy, awkward terrain, which sort of helped mask the situation because I was going quite slow at the time anyway. But yeah, I mean, if you're driving along like a normal road, you kind of get this sort of speed I'm going now, but most of the time it just it slows you down a lot. And I don't know, like, it's weird that this thing has got what is, I believe, the new most powerful engine in the game, and I don't know if it's like the engine, if there's something iffy with the engine itself, or if it's just more this vehicle, but considering it's supposed to be the new most powerful engine, this thing seems to run out of like power quite a lot. You get into certain situations like this and it just doesn't really want to give you much oomph. Once you're stuck a little bit, it just completely gives up. Like you can see, it's not even spinning the front wheel. I'm not even entirely sure what I'm caught on. The only thing I can think is the front chin of it has kind of like got a bit of a bigger hitbox than it sort of looks, and I might have been scuffing those rocks on the left hand side, but it didn't really look like it as such. Like when you look with the camera, it looked like I'd cleared it. Yeah, there's a kind of beach in its big old snout again, really. Looking at it now, to be fair, those 2 front axles are pretty close together. Could almost do with scooting one of them forward a little bit. But yeah, like if the engine's the most powerful engine, then I don't know. Like I don't think this vehicle weighs more than all the other vehicles, like the Clubs and all the rest of it. So I know power to weight wise, I believe it's on S+. But yeah, just something feels off with it, really. That rock's section. It was only about now I realised my trailer had disconnected. It must have been, you know, when you go to access like the winch menu, and it just kind of like, for the first time or two you press the buttons, it doesn't scroll the menu. I think I must have hit, well, yeah, I must have hit detach trailer instead of applying the winch. Just cut that out because it's pretty slow and boring, but yeah. And by the way, like part of the reason I was running out of time tonight as well, I took this out, got to that waterfall bit there, and this thing tipped over like, I think was it 3 or 4 times in a row, and at that point I just wanted to like recover, go back to the garage and just start again, and it was tipping even without the active suspension being lifted up as well, so it's technically sitting a bit lower than it otherwise could. And yeah, it's funny, it's one of those missions, like every now and then I get one where in theory this is a pretty simple mission. Could certainly, if I wanted to do like a speed run of this mission, I'd choose a more normal vehicle like the Taiga, the Dolphin, the Vorons, those sort of things, and then yeah, picking this, the amount of little things that suddenly were a bit of a disaster. And I did a couple of quit and reload jobs tonight just because, yeah, like I say, time was getting on a little bit. But yeah, it's funny how some vehicles can just turn like a relatively simple mission that should, in theory, if it all goes smoothly, it could almost be like, say, a 15-minute video probably takes me 20 minutes to get all the footage, and again, that's in theory, and then I've obviously got to go through it, edit it, then voice it, then render it, then upload it, etc. So that all adds a lot of time on. But yeah, then you get certain missions like this where the end result is probably, I did a little extra thing at the end as well, so there's probably more like 17 minutes. Apologies, that's my phone. It always waits until I'm recording audio and then it decides to start going mad. Yeah, it's just like how much it can drag a video out, and I probably spent, I don't know, a couple of hours getting this footage. So again, now I wasn't even entirely sure what I'm caught on again. The only thing I can think is, again, like the front nose of it, sort of in front of the left front axle, it's kind of chewed its way into the ground, but it doesn't look too bad. But clearly something's going on. It almost feels like I'm stuck on a tree, but I don't think I am. Eventually it let me out, but then I took a pretty fat hit of damage on the suspension. So yeah, I think there might have been like, not necessarily a bug with the game, it might just be this thing. They probably need to smoothen out like the hitbox and everything. It's a bit like they did back in the day with the Club, the flat face Club. Was it like the 74760 or whatever it is? I only remember 747 because of Bowen. But yeah, that used to be quite trollish back in the day. Like that really would catch its skid plate and sort of underneath its chassis quite a lot, to the point it was pretty annoying and undrivable. Bruce did to a degree as well. I'm pretty sure they fixed Bruce in one way or another. They added raised suspension. Well, they've added raised suspension for both of them, but I think they just kind of helped neaten off the hitboxes. I believe they patched like the Club before we got the suspension. And yeah, it seems like that's possibly what they need to do with this one. There is a few different skid plates you can select though, so maybe I'll have to go through some of them. But yeah, the main thing for this truck is just it's a bit of a killer on the time, really. It likes to sit back, relax. It's going pretty deep there as well. That's what she said, of course. Yeah, some of this river's a bit like deceiving. It's quite narrow in certain parts, and you sort of think, oh, I'll be fine getting across that. But yeah, just a thin strip in the middle of the river, you drop pretty deep into. And to be fair, this isn't like the tallest truck in the world. It's a decent sized truck, but the cab on it, I suppose, sits kind of low. I bet if you parked it next to even the Zix, but stuff like the P16, I bet that sits a lot taller than this, like with its snorkels and everything else. And yeah, when I first set off to do this mission, I had the Lo4f on the roof, and I was going to load 2 of these chemical barrels into my sideboard, and then carry one, either wear it as a hat, or probably because I already had the Lo4f on, just kind of clamp it on the back on top of the other cargo. But yeah, like I said, it tipped 4 odd times at the waterfall alone, and I was like, okay, we'll revise that plan. I'll stick the Lo4f in the sideboard. keep the suspension down, all the rest of it, just so it's like its kind of centre of gravity all sits a little bit lower. But anyway, we've got one down. And at this point, by the way, I got the first piece of cargo. That was all pretty much one bit of footage. I was driving down here, getting the second piece of cargo, and then as I was crossing the river, I was kind of learning the hard way where the seriously deep bits are. So instead of faffing around, I just quit and reload, because quite conveniently it pretty much saved as I grabbed those first lot of barrels. At least the this yellow crane as well, it's just about long enough it can reach like the trailer to pack the stuff on, or at least on like the first slot. So I'm so glad they have this option in the game. It just unpack and repack and it lays them out. If it didn't do that, this game would be a right pain in the ass having to keep disconnecting trailers. And then yeah, as I said, I was gonna go down the river and then turn left, and it'll be a little bit easier to explain soon. But the reason why I aborted mission is that basically there was like quite a narrow bit between like this other piece of land and the port, and it looked like it could be doable, but then this river also is very narrow, and as you can see here, like, it drowned me again. It drowned me originally. I went further down the like left hand bank and tried to cross where the third piece of cargo is. In the end, like, this looked a little bit potentially shallower, but yeah, went deep enough, got 80 damage, it stalled my engine, but we've got a goddamn horse with us, so switch to him. Do like a zombie winch. You can see though it's going bloody slow. I end up editing pretty much exactly 1 minute out there, and I was just holding the winch down, feathering the throttle of the loaf, just trying to get it. It was very, very slowly scooting forward. Again, I believe it's like, because it's a bit of a V shape, it's sort of scratching its front nose like all on the riverbed, so it's struggling to climb out the other side. And to be fair, you can see now it's a bit of a steep one again for how narrow the river is. And even see like low range, high low diffs on, all the rest of it. The power's a little bit questionable. But thankfully we did make it out there, and the ramp flatbed didn't even tip. And you can sort of tell at this point I'm just like, yep, get the video done, because I don't even square the loaf up. Normally my OCD, I want to get that loaf nice and lined up. Well, to be honest, I kind of figured it, at the rate I'm going, I'll end up hitting another rock. Something will happen. So kind of where my trailer is, that kind of mud line going up the hill, that's where I originally drove down, where my truck seemed to like bury itself. I think it was there anyway, I'm pretty sure it was. Now I've said it, I'm not even 100% myself. Yeah, I think it is, and I obviously, because I've gone a little bit past it, I could reverse, but the trailer's a pain in the ass to reverse. And originally I wanted to cut down here, and then when I get to like my next blue sort of way marker up there, I could cross the river. There is an actual river crossing there, so that'd be fine. And yeah, loop around. But like I said, after trying to get across there, it was just, this thing was sinking so much, I sort of figured where the port is, they've probably made it purposely pretty deep. So I just kind of figured at this point, go back the normal way, just get the mission done. You can see, even stuff like that, I've got the diffs on, and it's being harsh, and it's sort of moaning that I had the diffs. I was using the diffs down that sort of section there, and it was overcooking them. And yeah, that's one thing that's always a bit of a pain with vehicles in this game. When you can't have diffs, it's one thing that you have to go in the low range to operate diffs, which is like fair enough, but then you also get the extra punishment of, if you're using that setup, I don't know, because normally it moans when you're driving down a road. It doesn't usually moan. I'm surprised it was giving me hassle when I'm driving along the edge of a riverbed, or the edge of a river. You'd think it'd cut me a bit of slack at that point. You see again, high-low. I mean, it is climbing, but it doesn't seem particularly fond of doing so. got to the top here. It was going a bit slow, so I thought, one, I'll save the footage just so I don't lose any. Two, I'll repair. And this was when I realised, yeah, only 150 points, repair points on the roof rack of this truck, which, I mean, it's better than nothing. It didn't even quite fully get the engine repaired, but enough to get it out the red. Which is not the end of the world. I just got a feeling when it's in red it lacks a little bit more power, and it also uses more fuel. But yeah, I mean, the Lo4f, he's packing major roof rack. He's got double that. He's got me covered. Squeeze through them trees. Don't know what the hell I hit there, but it hasn't deleted my suspension, so we'll ignore it. Just about scrape next to that tree, because again this thing's a little bit iffy with tipping, so I didn't want to kind of go off that rock and start leaning to one side a bit. Was it now? Yeah, here's probably another good example. I mean, I can't really tell anything in particular that's stopping me. It's just like the tyres are sort of butted up against that rock, and then yeah, it just kind of gives in a bit. For considering it's high-low with the diffs on as well, seems a little bit. And again, apparently the most powerful engine. Just went for a bit of a run up, kind of bounced my way up there. Went a little better there, to be fair. I quite like crossing that waterfall, even though it is a little bit on the sketchy side. And I don't know why. There's kind of a path leading up to it now going the other way, but once you get on the other side there's no decent way out of there really. You just sort of have to thread the needle through the trees. But other than that, yeah, it's pretty fun crossing there. And then this is basically back the way I came for a little bit anyway. It was the safer option in the end. Although knowing what I know now, I regret not going the other way. But then, having said that, know my luck. If I had gone the other way, something would have gone horribly wrong. And then I would have regretted not going this way. Do you know, I've seen a video yesterday on YouTube, like, I think it happened pretty recently, so some of you guys might have seen it, where someone's driving down like a highway, freeway, whatever, I assume it's in America, and there's a pickup truck in the middle lane, and this guy's in, I can't remember what it was, like a Hyundai or a Kia or something. The front left tyre comes off the pickup truck, just as like, basically the guy in the fast lane is overtaking the pickup in the middle lane, and just as he's about to get level, the left tyre comes off the pickup, kind of goes a bit diagonally into the fast lane, and then the guy that was overtaken kind of hits the tyre, and it basically, it must have gone under his bumper and sort of bumped him up in the air. But yeah, you want to see the video, like how high the car jumped in the air. It was pretty nuts, and smashed down on its roof, so pretty sketchy. It's like, gives you another thing to fear when you're on the bloody motorways and stuff now. I thought those tyres were bad enough for smashing into cars, but when you get to see this one like launch the car in the air, yeah, it's pretty crazy. I always get nervous, like when I'm overtaken. Well, when we used to go Isle of Man and stuff a bit, we'd obviously spend quite a few hours going along the motorways, and as you overtake the lorries, because I was in the passenger side mostly, I'd be right next to like the lorry tyres as we're overtaking them. I always used to think, like, I hope one doesn't go bang, because it'll probably blow my window out and shower my face with yeah, like shattered tempered glass or whatever. Thankfully, touch wood, no one never did. Yeah, we got it though, got it dropped off. I can't see now with the money. I think was it like 8,000 or something, which is not too bad. And then at this point, right, this is where I got the last package about there, and I could have crossed here, and then I wanted to, you can see where it's a pretty small gap between like this island and the port. So that was the way I was going to experimentally bring the cargo. Obviously I got the mission done normally, but then at that point I just kind of thought, right, it's in the bag, I've got no cargo to lose, we'll just chance it. If I roll or tip or drown or whatever, then it doesn't really matter. So it was this section from like here across there, which to be fair, it was close, definitely not far off drowning, but they have actually made it shallow enough. So I assumed, because you can see like boats and that in the background, that they would have made this like purposely pretty deep. But yeah, it actually got away with it. Like I say, now I was a bit gutted that I didn't bring the cargo that way. Probably would have been quicker in the end as well. Bit of a turning circle on this thing, or lack of. I mean, I suppose at this point, to be fair, the mission's done. The video's just about over. I just wanted to know for my own peace of mind if that way's even possible. I was not too keen about getting over these rocks. It wasn't on the way either, because I basically, the way I'm showing you now, I drove the opposite way to cut over there in the first place. But we made it, and then yeah, in theory, if I did have the cargo with me, I would have arrived here, drop it off, see it's moaning about the old diffs again. But yeah, that's another one in the bag though. That's about it for today. I hope you've enjoyed. I hope that helps. Thanks for watching. Thanks for Patreon members. Get yourself a loaf because he's a beast. He saved me with the old zombie winching. And I'll be back soon.